what I said was we're going to decode where we are live because that's kind of what it was feeling like to me that we were doing, when we decided to do that. So we are live on YouTube right now, according to Zoom at any rate.
You hear that,
And
Posse? Live. Yeah. You're on. You're on camera, man. Make it good. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I told BZ a little earlier, Xander had to make an appearance and show himself. He was beside himself. He had to get up and be seen. And I had this, I told BZ, I said, I think I'm beginning to think or wonder anyway if maybe Xander's gonna be a little bit towards a Saint Bernard side because that is one huge
He's
puppy dog.
large.
He's 18 weeks yesterday.
Wow.
Well, he is large, ain't the name of it. So, well, my name is Sheila Corona. This is Conscious Conversation Central. These are part of my, and I'm saying part of my Gal Pal Posse because as a lot of folks know, I always refer to Katie Hasso when she's in the house. She's part of the original Gal Pal Posse because this is the original Gal Pal Posse right here. And so we were hanging out with bees. I was able to get bees last night, right about, I don't know, about 1 o'clock my time. I was about falling asleep and asked if she was busy tonight. We were going to hang out, maybe record. I wasn't sure if she was available and she said yes. And I still didn't know then if we were going to or not, but I wanted you to know, BZ, I kind of felt it earlier on today. I said to Lisa, that I would like to be ready to record or go live with you if you chose. So I kind of feel like I was feeling it that we would do this tonight.
I don't know if I'm freezing the whole time or you guys are freezing the whole time, but there seems to be freezing going on around here.
Oh, okay. Well, I do see that my internet connection does say that it's a little slow. So Lisa, would you mind turning your Wi-Fi off of your phone? And I'm going to do the same.
No problem.
Okay.
Both
So
of you looked clear for me. That's fun.
well, same. That's what I'm wondering. So if you guys would let us know, are you seeing freezing? Y'all are Johnny on it too, by the way. We haven't been here, a couple of minutes, and we've already got 6 folks that have joined us because, very little notice. I told you, you never know about me. That's right. So we have Team Trump has joined us. So glad to see you, Tim. He said, hope you all are feeling, he said, I hope you all are feeling so excited. And this is part of what we want to talk about tonight. That's why it's
that's 1 in 1 camp. Okay, come on. Who else? Is anybody else in other camps?
Jennifer Brown has joined us and she's saying, hello, dearest ladies. Love seeing you. And Stacy Watchell has joined us as well. She said, I'm a busy woman today. Well, Lisa and I kind of felt like there was going to be a time, we just didn't know when, that we'd better enjoy the downtime that we had because missions are coming online for people all over the place. And, so that's so thank you for recognizing that, Stacy. And Stacy, I would love for you and I to be able to communicate and set up a time to visit and Zoom together. So please reach out to me, consciousconversationcentral@gmail.com with some dates and times. I know that you are located in Puerto Rico, so I'll be able to do the time differential there. Jim Lutz has joined us as well. So I'm sure more folks will start coming in. Please don't, this is interactive. I love it if you want to, ask questions, chime in, let us know where you are, who you are, how you're feeling, that sort of thing. But be aware, I'm going to just say this right here and now, be aware that Well, actually, BZ said, I gotta warn you. You want to tell them what you warned me, BZ?
I was just going to warn you that I'll be fierce and passionate about what's really the flow. So,
right. And well, which is part of the reason why we hang out. I'm gonna be honest with you, because I have to have folks that are strong in their own convictions and will stand for what they feel and know to be right for themselves. Because I'm a strong individual like that too. So love that. QT said, I feel busy as hell. I'm all over the place. Yeah, so that's part of it too, right? We were sort of chatting, the three of us, trying to determine what we were going to do before, and the conversation we were having felt like the one to have in this moment of now. Because those of us who have been following the movement, I'm going to point to this back here so I don't have to say anything. I just put it back there. Those of you who also know or will recall that Lisa and I went over, and actually Lisa was the sacred witness. I was just the boob that came along for the ride. Well, sort of, you know what I mean? I know I had a purpose. I just don't know what it was. Okay. And that's all right. I'm all right with that.
Honestly, you don't know.
Oh, because of, okay, never mind. You're right. I don't know. Conscious conversation is what I am.
Role. And I honor you and thank you for showing up.
Well, thank you. I wasn't thinking about that part. Okay. See, it's such an ingrained, I wasn't thinking about that. That's just kind of who I am, right? That's why.
Well, what were you thinking about?
I don't know.
But see, isn't that an example? But that I'm going to stop you right there. That's an example. People, they just gloss it over, and you were about to finish saying, "Well, I wasn't thinking about that. That's just so natural. Here I am." Hello, yeah, that's right. Why would you have a role that's an anathema to who you are? Why would you be sent on this planet in this moment right now to bring it all home for something that you're going, how do I do this again? Right?
No, you're right about that. That's why, and that is exactly why in other conversations, you know, we've talked about following your highest joy in every moment, because that is dun, 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 your mission. That'll be $5, everybody. Thank you very much. I mean, I don't know. It's just the way I feel about it. So at any rate, let me check in again. I want to be very mindful of you guys this evening to make sure I pull you guys in here. Okay. So Jennifer's saying a lot of buzzy energy. I believe that I'm feeling that too a lot. I've been feeling energy burning across my heart, down my arms to my palms. Exciting times. Yes, there's a lot of energy moving in our fields, in our bodies.
Yes. And this afternoon, we kind of I got a walloping.
Yeah, right.
I'm still feeling, I feel a little pummeled. The back of my neck and my shoulders in particular, like even right behind my lungs. You know, you can't even.
Well, yeah, remember earlier I was telling you I felt some weird squeeziness on my torso too. So I know exactly what you're speaking on there. Jim Ludd says, does anyone else feel like there's a lot of green screening going on? And so as a matter of fact, I would agree with that to some degree. And this is, again, part of what we want to talk about here tonight. I know there's this, BZ noticed it. I guess you're noticing it more than I am, BZ, because, you know, and I'm not sure why that is, but you want to share with some of what you were sharing with us?
I'm noticing a whole lot of stuff, so you got to narrow it down.
You were referring to the, you know, some who've been following what's going on. What, you know, I don't know. A lot of people will go, oh yeah, well, what is going on exactly, Sheila? Who's got the answer to that? And I mean, there's, because the truth of the matter is,
I was talking
Good.
about that there's a, I've been noticing around whether the people are directly standing in front of me in physical type of setting or, diapered or not. And, or whether they're, on my phone because it's in a tweet or in a text or on the thing or in my inbox or, wherever the different places are. And there seems to be, I was describing it as a couple of camps, and some people are in the camp where they're just jazzed and they're excited and they're, and they're kind of looking around a little carefully, a little surreptitiously in case, somebody else goes, "You're a traitor. You can't feel happy. What the hell?" Or wait a minute, you're one of those people, sort of thing. And then there's a camp of people who have been being good sheep and they've been going along and you just got to do the right thing. And they've become overzealous at, at shaming people or whatever. And they realize that they've had to put on 6 more coats and cloaks of this whole downtroddenness. You don't know what it is, but it seems to be uplifted. And I notice when I walk through, like I said, in any of the connections that it happens, it could be physically through the store or whatever, that I'm looked at, and it's almost like this word just came to mind, is like an apparition is walking by, because it stops those in that camp kind of in their thing. And even if they were ones in the vitriolic type thing, there's a pause and they're like, I don't know. Now that's a weird thing that's coming through too, but I'll go with the video that's coming, is, a white stag that comes through, and the grocery store is the forest, and I walk through and it's this white hind that comes through and kind of like, follow me on the sort of thing. And then there's some in camp who said they were awake and all this kind of stuff, and they're like, oh no, it's over and it didn't happen, and this person said that, or I watched this person's video, or it's never gonna happen, and now it's all and I thought, well, that's fascinating to watch all these different things happen. And one of the things that I haven't done it yet today, but to play with is conversing with each of your flows. So if you're in a place either where you're replaying a conversation and you're in one of those camps and someone else is in another, or within you, I was saying a little bit off camera that, Smarmy will come by and is like, wanting to role play one of these camps. And I go, okay, good. Well, here are the logistics on what you just said. And Smarmy's like, well, shit. Well, that doesn't work. I gotta have to rethink my, this kind of theory, we're all doomed and so on and so on theory. And that's part of where we are right now. And that, in a very condensed way that I just described it, is exactly why all of this has to go on. This is what is part of the reveal, part of the Great Awakening, is as important as, as laying this document down and saying that's a D class and of this. You're not small, you're not missing anything, and you're essential to what is going on, that is being done to unwind and unbind all of this and bring it home. It's just the way it is. Yeah. And it couldn't be more fantastic and super cosmically delicious. And the complex and simple beauty of all of the intricacies involved in every player's playing is just astonishingly beautiful. If you can stop for a moment and witness what goes on within you. If you've got, all these camps in within you for a moment, it could be just temporary. It could just be a moment, right? And you may go down, get off of the happy jazz camp and go down one other camp for a minute and go, wow, or you're watching it play out, or wherever you are, if you Twitter or blah, 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 or whatever's left out there that you haven't been kicked off of, or someplace new. You're like the other day, last night, I was wandering into this new, I don't even remember what it's called. Jennifer will know. And I thought, well, okay, I'm supposed to do this because so-and-so sent this and we're going to move a team thing there. And so all of a sudden I have to laugh because Jennifer and Jeannie say, hey, how's it going? I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. I didn't even know I was here. How do they know I'm here? And they were just there for the first time too. So it's this whole thing of we're kind of pulling all these things together. And the reason that I think it's helpful to play with that is that if you can stop for a moment and dance with, even if you don't see all of it, or you're not fully appreciating all of it, or aren't just admiring how astonishingly beautiful the complex nature is, you just catch a whiff of it. It's really very cool. It shows you, it's a great way to show you the intricacy of your own body and its ability to do all the things it does without you thinking about it at all, or the outer space or inner space or any other thing that there is. You're showing yourself all of these things, and then you understand that it's not a race to get done with something. It is this amazing, you're on the starting blocks and you're having this organic explosion of the implosion of you coming into you, right? And you're here right now. You have the ticket. I mean, if you ever wanted to go to that rock concert or that play on Broadway, or that sporting event or whatever it is, you have the most incredible ticket in all of Source's multiverses right here, right now, in your hand.
Well, you also said something during our conversation that was not on camera with everyone, that I want to make sure we pull into this conversation, because we didn't really, it was at that point I was like, oh yeah, we really need to have this conversation. And that is specifically directed at the camp who has been following along for all this time, right? And have the, oh, well, it's over, and now we have to wait, or whatever, or here we go again, or whatever, right? And you said, and I totally agree with, if anybody thinks
Want me to say what
that
I said?
it's over. Go ahead, BC.
I said, you want me to say what I said?
Yeah, I would love to. I would love it if you would.
Well, that was, that's one of the things you can counteract with your own smarmy or whatever. But if anybody thinks that, this is the time for the grand realizing that you're actually not solid in in that knowing, but it's an intellectual exercise. So if you actually think that Trump can just, leave office and Biden can come in and everything will go on, you couldn't be further from the truth. They will not only kill him, and they eventually will, but they will do it in the way that is the most, for them, delicious, and for most disgusting and horrific way. And then what they would do to Barron, and what they would do to Melania, and what they will do to anyone who has in any way outwardly
well, quite frankly, they've been signaling not only that, BZ, but I'm going to take it a step farther and say that if you really feel into some of what has been said, and what has been actually written in some places where those who have supported Trump,
Oh, yeah.
those who have worked for him, any of his employees, any past employees, they are speaking on doing, making sure that they never work again. And these sorts of things. This is the kind, I don't know, but in my view, one has to ask oneself, is that a normal reaction to any of this?
Well,
So,
because that we're not in linear. We haven't been
No, I know.
for many years. So,
Right.
just in an isolated way. And so if one thought that Trump was only interested in himself, well, then he's kind of stupid because he picked the wrong job, if that was the case. But that's a whole other thing. But if he's only interested in, or his family, then he can't not do it, but he's got to do it in a way. So have you ever watched or read a book or something where there's the good guys and the bad guys, and there are certain constraints in how you wield your energy and how you go through things, and it's, as if you're involved in it, or if you're just vicariously reading or watching or something, you're thinking, well, they don't play by the rules, right? And I'm not talking about linear rules, I'm talking about source rules. And so we can just cut corners here and there because otherwise we won't win, and it doesn't work that way. Would it be nice? Would we momentarily think, well, no one's looking, or we can just do this because it's so important? Maybe, but that still is not the end, because that the whole point is that winning is coming back to your center, and winning is fully coming back to your heart and love absolute, and that's the prize, and that's what the objective is. And at the same breath, I would say that, would you stop that? That to make no mistake that on all sorts of levels and all sorts of realms, we're in a battle, and it is a pitched battle on every realm and every dimension and everything, and it is a good and evil bet. It is you could describe it in many ways. It's a polarized positive or negative. It is constrictive and expansive. It's all of those things, and on each of those levels and layers and realms and the vibrational flow of those, it then has ramifications, and they're grave, and the gravitas that is involved in each one is huge, and you are seeing it play out now. And if you notice for a moment, you look around and you just said it, Sheila, well, that's an odd reaction, because now the blinders are falling off. This has always been the way that it is. This has always been, you just can see it for the first time now, right? So if one thinks that, well, you'll have a 2020, or this isn't about an election, and this is not your father's election. It's so when you can look about that, either yourself or someone else, that's when it's a good time to stop and go, well, hang on. I'm either saying that I'm spiritual or I'm not. I'm either saying that I'm eternal or I'm not. I'm either saying this is not your normal, if I'm just using behind your shoulders language, right? That this is not your every 4-year election, or it is, right? You can't have it both ways. It's either all of it and you are multidimensional and a kick-ass creator being, or you're still deeply ensconced, although giving lip service to not being, in the illusory nature of what you think is going on.
Yep.
And that's part of the war. The real war is inside of oneself. It is escaping from, shedding off, from throwing off the chains of the distortions and all the, I'll go real linear for all the shit that you've been piling on top of you for eons to discover, and moments here and there you go, wow, like you might look at Xander and go, oh, what a beautiful, sweet puppy, so much energy, so much love, right? You know, and you see it for just a moment, and then it's the Tasmanian devil puppy or whatever it is. So we're shedding all of those things, and the more vitriolic, the more real, the more, you know, from a kind of gobsmacked linear way that this unfolds, then it brushes. It's like you different grits of sandpaper, you know, or different tools on a Dremel, or now you've got the diamond bit Dremel tool, and you can really buff and, you know, get these things off. And that's what's going on.
No, you're exactly right. I, you know, since I started hanging out with the two of you, and you know, have really just sort of begun to conduct my own, you know, experiential experiments in consciousness, right? By, you know, asking myself questions and then trusting the answers that I get, that sort of thing. Because you guys know how I used to feel about how I wasn't connected and whatever, right? Because I really do think that that's, you know, you mentioned it again, and we actually, geez, here I go. I don't know if it was my live this morning with myself or my live with you, Lisa, or
Yeah, we just
last
talked.
night or what. I don't know when I said this or what, but whatever, but I know I've said it, you know, at the risk of repeating myself, which I do, I know a lot, but at any rate, that was all well and good and all real funny. And now I've forgotten exactly what I was about to say. Damn it. That was real good. Yes, it came back. Oh, it needed to come back. I knew it would because it was important. You said something about you're either spiritual, you're either right, and I think personally, this is kind of an aside, and I'm going to make sure we talk about it in a completely different conversation because I think it deserves its own.
Okay.
It's about time that we start putting the whole idea of woo-woo and spiritual and all of that into its proper place, because there are some things that at least for me personally, I have been able to prove to myself in regards to being a creator being. I have gobs and gobs at this point of not, and I won't even say anecdotal evidence anymore because it's pretty effing powerful evidence to me.
Yeah, it's physical evidence. That's what it is.
Right? It's very physical.
Tangible, tough, touchable, demonstrable.
One of them goes by the name of candy.
Materialized, right?
Right, exactly. So it and for me, it has more. I'm just saying that because it's only because of its occult or hidden nature, or, you know, forbidden nature or taboo nature, or, oh, don't mess with that because that's the woo woo, man, that's the devil's eye, that's going to, you know, that sort of stuff. And that's all been done like that on purpose, because actually it is just the way it is. I've come to this thing that it's and I kind of feel like it's about time. Not sure how we'll do this over time, but it's time to start incorporating the fact that it's not woo-woo, it's not mystic. Whether we want to, the only reason it's hidden and mystery and all of that is because we allowed ourselves to be distracted from it and believe that it was woo-woo, not important, and oh, that's not real.
Well, if you're laying about, it's about time, I'd say it's, you know, long way past time.
Well, I realize that, but that's why I said I know it's a separate conversation, but because of how you said it and in the context, this is the second or third time in my field personally. And so I wanted to share that with you because I know you hadn't heard that. And I know that you feel that too. It's one of those things that it just is. And
Yes,
I actually don't feel comfortable calling myself spiritual because I don't,
I
what does
don't.
that actually even freaking mean? I'm sorry, but I don't see the point, and because it just feels like more oh, here we go, an attempt at division of some sort.
It is. It's hierarchical.
Yes.
And it's a compartmentalization of things, and it's separating yourself from it's like, naming, my this, my that, my my team, my guides, my angels, my higher self, my soul. Okay, well, you got, it's a big stair ladder on top of your head, and like, and you're all you, right? Because that's another way, intentionally done or not, and I think oft times quite intentionally done, to
Okay.
make you small.
No, I agree.
That one is missing something. And that's the other thing is, and you can, and here's a, regarding someone just had a question, so you can prove these things to yourself. I'm just talking about in the context of this, big current events question that we're talking about. So if you're thinking, well, it's, it's political, or it's this, well, look around, and have you ever seen this kind of thing occur? And take any specific little tiny this, and you won't. And for a long time this has been happening, but it's all over the place now, and quote unquote rushes to judgment, or swings to this, that, and the other thing. And it's because the illusion is breaking down, and the illusion within you is breaking down, so that you're human, or you're spiritual, or you're higher minded, or you're more awake, or you only think, do not eat that, you only think of the truth, or finding the truth, or whatever it is. And you are the totality of that. You're the bad shit too. And I just went, I told you, I just went taboo on that. Sorry, but that's the way it is, because you're all of it, and you then are the singularity of yourself. And I've been saying this a lot, and I'm going to keep saying it. We are in the big battle right now, and you are here because you have the expertise, because you have played in, mastered in, majored in all of the bad shit. Could have been eons and eons and eons and eons and eons and eons ago. Nonetheless, you did it really well, and then you made a choice, and then you made a choice, and then you made a choice, and you kept pivoting, expanding, right? Light, all the, right? So that you could be here now to know how to bring this all down.
Well, and let me, and not just that, but wait, there's more. Because not only are we powerful enough that we are taking it all down, but simultaneously, ladies and gentlemen, we are bringing up the new all at the same time, because that is who we are. Don't
Right.
make
And that
any
was
mistake about
that was the next thing I was going to get to in my notes here. It's true. We're doing that all at the same time, because, well, for a couple of reasons, because that's how multidimensional and creative we are. And because it's not, stop, because it's not, I like that mouse, you can't eat that. Sorry, we're eating computer equipment.
that.
Um,
Don't do it, Xander.
know.
Mice don't taste good.
because take in science, take in spirituality, take in whatever you want to call it. It's a combination of all those things, realms and dimensions and frequencies, and you have a vacuum, right? Then that which is can outweigh the viscosity of the vibrational frequency can fill that vacuum before you've turned around and say, that's why it has to be done at the same time. Then how do you prove that? Okay, so someone's thinking, well, wait a minute, this is just political stuff. This is just world stuff. This is right. Okay, except that all of these things, do you think that, I think we're probably at, and after they finish with the vote going on right this minute on 25th Amendment. So it's conservatively, we're at 89 to 92% of the entire government. So House, Senate, SCOTUS, right? And that's not to mention the governors and everything else, right? They're all gone, all on treason, full on treason and sedition. Not just on the little play you've got going on right now, but a whole bunch of other enchiladas at the same time. So you think what, you know, what, how do you have a plan where you bring all that down and then there's nothing? And you're going to sit around looking into, even if the new thing is totally you're going to wait for what? And there's a vacuum, and all that time for a few things you didn't miss, or people who were giving lip service to be, you know, truthers or whatever it is. No, you have it all created, all ready to stand in line to come forward. So that's in every sphere, every system, it's just like all the unwinding and unbinding, all of the corruption, all of the deceit, all that is in every of those things. The new must be built. Why do you think you wake up in the morning going, wow, I don't feel like I've slept very long, right? Because you've been mighty busy.
Well, something just came in for me when you just said that, and to remind, especially those who, you know, have been researching and, like me, woke up to the corruption on the planet first, therefore otherwise known as conspiracy theorists, because, you know, truthers that are looking for the truth of stuff, right? That's me. That's how I woke up first to that first, then the healthcare industry, things like that, right? So and in that arena, it's very clear to most conspiracy theorists that if, okay, take, you know, there are directed energy weapons, and every conspiracy theorist knows this, right? And so the thing of it is anything that you get to know about, and this includes, make no mistake, that kind of thing, even though, you know, there might be a denial and all of that, right? Because there are things where we don't get to know any of this kind of stuff until they're ready for us to know it. Make no mistake. Go back and take a look at the Brookings Institution reports about UFOs to begin with, right? As far as like something like that is concerned, but all of the technology and things, every conspiracy theorist will tell you that we've been to space, we have Mars colonies, we have all these different things that no one knows about. So and that's kind of what a lot of what you're speaking on, about having things ready and waiting in the wings. This kind of thing, what's going on right now has been, for me, for my feeling into it, has been being planned and worked out long ago.
Yeah, when we began, when we left the super source and we were headed out.
Right, but I'm speaking very specifically.
This is not just, you know, 5 years ago. Sorry.
No, I know you're right.
Because you're either eternal or you're not. Right?
No, I know you're right, but I'm speaking right now to those who are, you know, really we're thinking about, you know, what is happening in the world stage, mostly right here in the United States right this minute.
That's what I'm talking about.
I know you are too. And from that most expansive part, you're right. I'm speaking on, because I just don't think, like you said, I just am not it's a feeling within me, and nobody has to agree with me, but I just don't think all of this with Trump would never have taken place if it wasn't ready. It wasn't time. We already know there's too many folks. I still could be wrong. My God, I sat in that courtroom in Knoxville and I just knew this was an open and shut case, man, because I knew they didn't do anything wrong.
And I keep
There was
feeling very reminded of that moment myself.
I know.
So I'm inviting you to be prepared for the unexpected. I think the line is expect the unexpected.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it
Yeah,
may not look.
Source has saw to it in every detail. And so that's what I'm trusting. I'm trusting source within me and within you.
Because absolute data means not one piece missing, not one molecule, not one tiny drop of a flow in a frequency, not any thought. And as you go through it and you create, in that unwinding and unbinding within yourself, I'm not just talking about, if you call them D's or you call them R's or whatever, I'm talking about the entire thing, that whole. Think about a really complex, detailed, beautiful oil portrait, right? Maybe there's a Degas, or maybe there's a Van Gogh or something. Van Gogh's sunflowers, that's a good one. Okay, there's lots of different colors and stuff going on, and there's more layers to make some of the things seem like they're closer in the foreground, and some, all that kind of stuff. And your mission is to sit there and carefully take each piece, each particle, from a particle level, from a vibrational level of paint, of pigment, of thought, of intention, off of the canvas and reveal everything that's underneath it. And as you're doing it, since you don't do it in a vacuum, since you don't do it since you're a creator being, you're doing it in a creative type fashion. You're actually playing with and creating something that's underneath that will be revealed in that, because that's how it works. You don't just erase something, right, to nothing. It goes to no thingness, entirely different than nothing.
Yeah.
And can then form. And how does it form? Because the observer puts their expansion on it, and it comes into, it's going to always pop into something else, because that's how all that is built.
Well, that's the, that's why I said for me personally, it is a very exciting time. I know a lot of folks do, because you're right. I haven't actually, most of the folks that I have been in contact with, there's not many that me personally, because, it's not like, again, I don't butt up against a lot of people a lot. Right. So I haven't really had many in my field that feel like, oh, it's over. And I don't sit and scroll or spend a lot of time on Facebook much anymore at all either. I've been, well, last week when I was kind of comatose and didn't know where I was the whole time and that sort of thing, there's that. But I haven't been spending a lot of time, checking the temperature of most, right? But it feels to me like there is a significant portion of folks who do still feel, and what they say, trust the plan, whether they realized that it's Source's plan that they're trusting, or that letter. Dig the metaphor, don't you? I mean, because that couldn't be more beautiful. The for me, the multidimensionality of what is taking place right now between, and because that is actually what attracted me to the entire thing to begin with with the case in, the alleged case in Knoxville, is that I knew that case was about so much more than what was, but I didn't know exactly what. And with my, earthly knowledge of how bank accounts actually work, I'm sorry, that's still lost on me how anybody could just sit and believe what the BS that was told in that courtroom from any angle is beyond me. But okay. That's why I just knew it was gonna be an in and out thing. Go ahead, Lisa.
So something's coming in for me too. I want to say for me personally, also that time in Knoxville was okay. So I had been kind of tracking the story since 2012, and I had an appreciation for what was going on. I thought I had a working understanding of the global situation. Um, but it wasn't until I was sitting there witnessing the transpirings that it really came into focus for me personally, the universal situation. This was way much bigger than what even I was grokking at the time. And I could see it. And it became so huge in that moment that I suddenly realized that sort of open and shut case I had been anticipating was really a great impossibility. And the reason I knew that was because and I'm not breaking here, I'm just being totally honest with what was the situation in my life. Was I was the most well-versed person I knew on the subject. Nobody knew more than me at the time, when I was, because I did all the research, and things back then came in very slowly. There wasn't a lot of new data, coming from anywhere. And those who were key, I guess we call them bloggers now, but people who were writing about it and sharing their stories, that's how, we were able to, or I was able to, and I say we because I had already been working with, my own guidance, and to have someone else do the same and come up with the same results was very powerful. But I'm really starting to understand just how big a job this is, informing, let's just deal with planet Earth right now, of what's happening from a universal point of view is large and not something we're accustomed to on any level. As we've been convinced that it's just us here. And so, I mean, just that piece alone is almost shattering news,
Like
at
I
least
said,
it was for me.
the
Like,
Brookings Institution report that'll tell you the truth about that. So you're right. That is.
that was a big shock to my system, but just for me personally. So if I'm any barometer, perhaps others will feel the same way. And in moss. So it's lovely that we can have these conversations and have this knowing confidently, beaming from our beings during this time, because it acts as a stabilizing force for those who feel like their stabilizers have been kicked out from underneath them. And so in that sense, everything's going to be just fine from that perspective. And so I haven't been tuning in to as much of the detail of sort of the, you know, the dust cloud, if you will. And that's really helping me to find more and more solidity within myself, that I know exactly what's going on without turning to screens or, you know, asking anybody else, because I know that I can tune in and actually learn everything I need to know in this moment from now. So that feels delicious.
Absolutely does. And that's the whole idea about, you know, that's part of the plan too, where someone is focused outside of themselves and they get the next report or the next tweet or video or blah blah blah, whatever it is, right? And all of that is excellent. All of that is everybody being and doing what they're feeling to give voice to. And it's part of every single being has a role to play, and it's a whole range of things, and no one's is bigger or better or higher, blah blah. It's none of that. It doesn't, because take it all apart. If you take one piece out, that could have been the piece that where you maybe you're thinking, oh, I'm not doing anything at a small part, I wanted to do this or whatever, and you just knew something, and you happen to be here, and you got, I don't know why this is coming up, but you got in a taxi in New York City, and you happened to see somebody else, and you said something as you left the taxi, and they had a ride and they were stuck in traffic and they had to get to mull over it, and it was that click in their tumbler from your thing, and that was a piece that allowed that person to show up and go put this piece in that was seemingly the most important piece, right? So if they hadn't had that exchange to do the time, you that was the orchestration. That was source working through all that to happen at that moment. So unless you are willing to let yourself be in a fully open, fully multidimensional, fully multi-locational consciousness level at a moment, don't dare to think that you can pigeonhole or lower down the sublimely beautiful, complex, yet incredibly simple, that it all just dovetails in. Just go forward with what you give are moved to give voice to. And they
Well,
can come out in different ways.
yeah, no, see, that's the whole thing for me in regards to what you just said. And that's why I feel like it's so important for us to recognize those, or be open to considering. Don't, okay, so don't say, you know, that you have to recognize da da da. No. Be open to considering that fact. Well, all of what you just said, just be open to considering that, because I mean, I don't know. Well, as you were describing that right there, BZ, I saw the movie It's a Wonderful Life. I'm sorry, I just did. And quite frankly, that's exactly what the deal is. That is how it is, that we are all one and yet singular. Because I don't know, every single piece of me, I didn't realize for the most part of my life that those pieces of me are mine. And I, at these moments of now, there are certain ones of them that I would like to have full knowledge of, control over, direction of, and all of these sorts of things. It's a, I don't know, the way you just said that, that's because we are the all that is. So one piece missing of the all that is, now it's something else. It's still all that is, because I don't know where this piece went or what it's doing, right? Or whatever. Let's just suppose it got sick or left the planet or whatever. There's still a reason behind all of that from the most expansive view. However, we're fighting against what we really came here to do. And I really feel, for me anyway, at this juncture, my anecdotal evidence is that what we're here to do is follow that joy, because that's the mission. You know, we're not, for me, almost every almost every being that goes through life at some point or another. I hope this happens for folks. I don't know, maybe that's a different show too. Don't you ever just kind of wonder, what is all of this for? Well, what did I choose to come here for? Or I guess you have to, unless your belief is that this is all an accident and oh poor you, and you're just here muddling through until you can get the hell out. I mean, I realize, because listen, I did a whole lot of years just like that. So no judgment about that. I'm just saying, uh, I don't know. It just seems to me it's a much more empowering thing. It has been for me to realize that I set all of this up and I'm the one that gets to control how this goes. Oh, hold up. I'm ready to play. Let's figure this out. I know, and I know now that it's actually really here. So, and I still see anecdotal evidence of the fact that whatever all of this is that's going on here out here on the, it ain't over. And it's not something to be concerned or worried. Is it going to be easy? No, it's not. It really isn't. But
Well, and
mean
the other
it's not
thing is that
doable.
when you kind of dovetails that when people think, well, I don't know what they think. I had someone jokingly knock on my texting window today on my phone and was referencing the the at the Alamo in the speech. Okay, I watched the speech, blah blah blah. I just wanted to know when he's going to read out the list of people get arrested, and they finished by saying LOL, and I looked at it and I chuckled and I wrote it back because a tiny piece of me can see that and go, yeah, and think it's funny and can be right there with it. Except I absolutely know that was never going to happen. That wasn't the whole point of today, and but wrestling with that. But if we have disappointment to that, if we have this or whatever, it's more goal to mine. It's to look at that and to dig through all that and to have more and more awareness, or another way to say it is more and more pieces of data revealed, data about yourself, data about, oh, well, there's another piece of distortion, or here's another this, or it's a blinder here, or this there, or it's an outside of me here, whatever it is, right? And so suppose we got to a thing where someone's built it up that it's going to happen now. What is that? Okay, well, your definition of it's going to happen now, right? And it's going to be revealed. Well, so that's why I keep saying, trust in your knowing and open your heart and remember, because when the it's happens now, be prepared to feel like this, because it will knock your socks off.
That's why I said when I first got involved with that whole thing in Knoxville, because I hadn't followed any of that like Lisa had, or you for that matter, BZ. I was new to all of that. But when all of that news came down the pike about what was happening, and for those of you that are here that don't know about that, all of that's available at the IUV, and everything is on record about all of it. And because, I mean, honestly, for me, that was a huge catalyst. That experience for me was one of, for me looking back now, that was like a point of, well, I told you, I kept telling you in some of those lives that I was doing that I felt like I was standing on the edge of forever, because I could feel, maybe at that point I was feeling the hugeness of the truth of what that was, like one of those tumblers that you spoke of. I still don't understand all of the data that that is floating around in my field from all of that experience and being around all of those beings, including, oh my gosh, in such a really huge way, Heather herself. But all of the beings actually for me that showed up there. And honestly, uh that's what I said. So for me, it was that experience in and of itself was so multidimensional. I was like that for me was like a real catapult.
Yeah. Yeah.
And actually also because I think because again, it was one of those things where a tumbler clicked. It allowed me to be open enough to be able to, see, I think this is an innate thing I possess, is to be able to see those threads through seemingly random events or, whatever that are actually, I don't know, for some reason they highlight for me in a very interesting way that I've noticed for myself now since I've been paying attention to me. That is my intuition and one of my skill sets.
Mhm.
Is for some reason I really don't have a really great memory about some things, but it's, I don't know, there are things that I was like, oh, but don't you remember that? And Lisa's like, oh yeah, that's right. Or that it was just stuff like that, right? And um I don't even know why I went there. That's really weird.
One of the
Oh, yes, I
things,
do. Yes, I do. Because it's all metaphor. It's all what's happening within me. I'm seeing out here on the world stage in such a way.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. But there's darkness being rooted out in every corner of me. I said I was a dark worker again today, and I am. I'm rooting out the darkness that resides in all the corners of me. I want to flood myself with light. I want to, this is my desire. I want to play in the next playground, the one I feel, the one I can feel that I know is there. Right?
yeah, because you're already creating it.
You're right. I know that now more than I ever have in my life before.
Well, one of the beautiful things that if you notice and you feel around where we are, if this is again newspapers, so the below the fold and above the fold. So now we are entering, if not fully ensconced in the top of the fold, top of the list at the below the fold. So now we're getting to the thing that is the control mechanism, which is the financial slavery, which trumps all of it, which has to do with all of it, which all these other things, very important, not one piece is not important, right? That feeds into, but now we're getting to that.
Right.
And that is what because that has universally, and I use that word on purpose, has affected and touched all beings, not one left out. And as you start to see all of that, you understand about how there's that connectivity. You understand about not one piece missing. You understand the held as seemingly just a linear concept that nothing can be born of a fraud and stand. Nothing can be born of a distortion and stand. And that includes everything. And when you finally start to get to that top layer below the fold of the financial slavery, which is on planet and off world, because that's how you have the universal commercial code, because those are the codes, those are the channels and the modes of distribution and all that kind of stuff. And it affects all. So when you're noticing that and you're thinking about something that someone's talking about or new things or rebuilding, whatever, nothing that is born of a fraud can stand, So if you are looking at something that's going to be the new thing coming in, if it has any relationship to, any tentacle of, any origination in its design and rollout and structure to now be put on the table, right? And it was born back here. It's born of a fraud. It's born from within the system. It's not born from within the embryonic state of the revolution, the revealing, the casting off of that distortion, that fraud being cast off, which is what's happening right this moment. So you can take you're being informed, you're being woken up to, you're going, oh, I see that, okay, and move forward. But you can't pull something that was before and bring it forward, because we've moved light years on. It's not a viable, sustainable frequency vibrational neighborhood that can they don't go together. Because
No.
even if it was 2 days ago and it was born of that, it's born of a fraud, and it won't molecularly, in a linear standpoint or in a whole, sources multiverse standpoint, it won't succeed.
No, I feel that what you're saying there is correct. I do. And I also feel as though a lot of what we saw, that's why I said, for me, it's now, I wanted to point out something, Lisa, Lisa and I'm going to make sure there is a link to this video in the show more section. Once we are complete here, I'll go back in and add this in the one for the replay. So if you would like to know where it is, you can go and get it at that time, because you can't do a yeah, okay. Well, I'm going to just send you love, Doziak, because I know that it is that you just aren't aware. You're not in the same place that I am. So that's cool, man. It's all right. You're welcome to sit in on this conversation if you like. And you're perfectly allowed to think and feel however you wish to think and feel. I know I wouldn't ever want to take that away from you. At any point, what I was going to say is Lisa and I saw a video today that I will make sure is in the show more section after we are complete here with our live. And it was Secretary Pompeo speaking at the Voice of America. He gave a speech, and he also answered some questions from the director of the Voice of America. Now, I didn't realize exactly what the Voice of America was, but during no, I'm serious. I didn't. When I told you I never paid attention,
I'm sorry.
I was serious. So I didn't realize.
No.
And it's a very interesting speech. And I will say to you right now that I've noticed that the languaging coming out of Washington is now, very interestingly enough, if you really pay attention and you're doing your noticing, including the word universal in front of things that, oh, wait a minute, we have one of those and it's universal. Oh, well, that's interesting. So this is, and so because I've heard others say, well, it's not the universal commercial code, it's the uniform commercial code. Oh, okay. Because what? Somebody told you that? Because that's what it says over here in WikiLeaks, or okay, well, maybe they decided to name it that for the moment, but that's not what it is. And the fact that they are now beginning to use that in the vernacular shows me too that, again, these are things, because if anybody, all you got to do is go back and look. This is strictly in my lifetime, well, actually, I don't think the Brookings report was in my lifetime. I think that was actually in the 50s, the original Brookings Institution report about, you know, do we tell them or not? There was actually in a report. If this ever happened, would we want to tell the people about it? Kind of report. Let's see, what was that one called? I believe it was by the Brookings Institution. I don't think that was one of those Iron Mountain ones, but at any rate, I'd have to go back and check. But there was a report done after Roswell, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it's on the IEB.
Okay.
It may be in the behind the veil section, but I think it's on.
You know, so to quote a famous movie, they kind of were saying, oh, they can't handle the truth, right? Is what that report really was saying. And so if you notice, there's so much, there has been so much seeding of the consciousness through movies and novels and things like this too, right? And don't think that all of that's not massaged us to think things in a particular sort of way, because that's how we develop and get our information on planet Earth. I mean, I am a compilation of every experience I have ever had in my entire life and my perspective that I was holding on that experience at the time of said experience, which will absolutely affect the next experience if I allow it to. If I don't, especially when, that's why I said dark worker, looking for all of that so I can eradicate it.
Yeah.
But all of this from that time to now has been such a progression. And because of that whole innate puzzle piece collecting thing that I seem to have, I can see how they're very connected. And I can very clearly see that what's out there is a projection of what's going on inside of me on a whole lot of levels in metaphor, for me. And so if that's not what's happening for you, okay, it's your experience and I get it. And I'm not trying to push that on anyone, but I, wow, since, like I said, since I've been hanging out with the two of you and opening up to the truth of who I am and trusting myself and my own guidance, my own internal guidance, which we all have. So,
Yes, and people are feeling pressure points that they may describe it as someone else did something to me or however you do it, but nonetheless, there are pressure points that you are giving to you to start to tune into that. It will be so in your face and unmistakable for you to turn. It may be because there was something at work, or your boss did something, or the coworker did something, or you really did some stupid shit, in your life, in your personal life, in your marriage, in your relationship, at work, whatever, right? So whoever was at fault, because fault has nothing to do with it. It's just a good label to slap on something, then you can slap whoever that is around with that. But they're pressure points for us to start to be responsible for what we are wielding. You're incredibly powerful and incredibly brilliant. Your brilliance that you have is gorgeous, and you can't hide from it anymore. Because when you do, you come right back around, and like you got just pulled over by the state troopers and they got a thing in your eyes and they're shining the beam, and you can't miss it. Because this is where we are now. We're winding this completely down and unbinding it, and we're blossoming this new thing, and it's going, and you're going too. Your choice is to do it on the planet in this embodiment, or leave the planet and go into the next stage, whatever your choice is of that is. But the
Well,
going, and it's here and it's happening right this minute, is not a choice.
well, I only heard part of what you said. I'm going to be honest with you, BZ, because I got a little distracted. I'm trying to keep up with the comments so I can make sure and share with you guys. And some of it I'm not going to acknowledge. It can be read by everyone, and I will make sure that the live chat is still up afterwards, because there's no amount of uh, there's
I don't even
really
know. I'm
nothing.
gonna stop you for a second. I don't even
Okay.
need. I don't even need to read it. I can feel it. But again, so here's a point of noticing, and what, nobody else exists except for each individual being, right? So what is being pushed within you to find, oh, hey, look at that big piece of distortion right there. It doesn't matter if you're actively typing or just watching or whatever it is. So this is a beautiful illustration. Sources, maneuvered it just right, that there's a beautiful illustration unfolding of what we're talking about. This just happens to be the metaphor for it. And so is some ones, many ones, single ones, being lit up about something, and what is it within each of those beings and how they navigate that. And where is the pressure point within them that's causing them to shift and project or deflect, in different things, because they haven't been noticing within their own being. So whether that's there, in the little microcosm here of a tiny little chat room in a tiny little moment, slice of a moment, or whether it's in Alamo in Texas, or a place in the UK where you have a 92 or 3-year-old man who's surrounded by police with diapers on their face. I'm sorry, nappies on their faces, and he doesn't have a nappy on his face, and so they're arresting him. And there's a huge crowd. I would imagine, so they don't get arrested, they're nappified, and they're yelling, "How could you do this?" And here is this being who is frail and, in theory, and old and 92, and is this righteous kick-ass creator being who will not go quietly into the night muzzled with a nappy and not standing up for the truth of who he is. And there may be a component of his linearness that may be going, oh shit, it's not gonna end well, right? But yet the amazing being that he is, he's there for that moment. He is this bright, shining, brilliant catalyst for this moment. However people may be, if they were metaphorically typing, or they're watching it, when they're right there in the scene, and then they're watching it on different things. And when I watched it, it was such a joyous moment, and tears just overwhelmed me. And part of me had the thought, and someone watching could think, oh, that's horrible, but it wasn't horrible to me. It was brilliant. Here was this being who was not any longer going to be subjugated to this. They knew who they were, and they were going to use this moment to shine brilliantly. And that's what each being is doing in their own way for their ultimate expansion to what's going on.
Yep, I'm in full agreement with that. I am, and I have to say that I'm okay personally I really, and I want to acknowledge something about myself in this moment that I'm noticing.
Okay.
And I want to get emotional about that. So
Mhm.
I'm honoring myself for something, because this is the first time that I've been on a live with, and I really don't feel the overwhelming need like I used to try to prove my point to someone. I don't have to convince anyone but me. I've had plenty enough, and that's why I have these conversations with you guys, because I certainly don't have to convince you either, right? I mean, I want
I know who I am.
right? That's what I'm saying. So I want to acknowledge the two of you for that. And thank you so much in this moment of now as well. And all of you who, because there are some of you that are watching have had conversations with me, and you all that, even if you haven't had one and you've been in the envelopes, you all pretty much know that I know I'm very well aware of where I am on my path. I know where I am on my path, and this is a huge moment for me, and I want to just acknowledge that. Because and I trust myself and my knowing of what has taken place and what is still taking place. Nothing is what it seems.
No,
And from the
and that's the saying of. Sorry, speaking of nothing will seem, we got a lot of stuff going on
oh
around.
my goodness. Oh, okay, wait a minute. I do at this moment have to address Doziak specifically about this particular thing.
Okay.
Because he says that he's mad. I haven't followed what's been going on up there exactly, but I just happened to catch this one because he said, I'm mad because I've seen Sheila being taken advantage of for 4 years. I've seen families destroyed by BZ and Hat J. That's the problem. And I won't answer for anything but myself. I don't know, but I don't understand how you feel I've been taken advantage of. And I'm very sorry that if you ever got that impression from me, somehow that I contributed to that thought or feeling there for you. In no way, shape, or form am I or have I ever been taken advantage of by anyone that I have ever come into contact with on my channel. I don't advertise. I don't get any money. It's my money. It's my channel is not monetized. I don't have services that I offer except for I do say I will read tarot for love offerings, but even that's not required. So in what way exactly? Because I don't pay anybody else either. I don't pay anybody anything. This is all, I've been very clear. Doziak, maybe you haven't really been following me too closely, honey, because I've been very clear. This channel is not for anyone but me. I've been very clear about that. And when it's not fun or I'm outie, peace. I don't show up when I don't want to show up. If I've made arrangements to talk with you and I wake up and I just don't flat feel like it, I tell everybody up front how I feel about things. And this is the kind of relationships that I am so into creating. And that is what I'm doing. So I have to take a little umbrance with you about my being taken advantage of there. Just want to be very clear about that. So, not to put too fine a point on it. Never once has anyone ever asked me for money because I wouldn't be able to give it anyway. It's not like like I said, this is not a paying gig. And I don't want it to be. That's the other thing, because the moment somebody becomes dependent on the money aspect of something, now it's a narrative that has to be protected at all costs. And I'm not free to be me on the level that I'm after, which I've said all along. That's why this channel is here, for my enjoyment, not yours. Just to be clear. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I had to go there because I've been very clear. I don't think maybe Doziak missed those days. I don't know.
Maybe.
And I do love you, dude. I do. I want you to know that. Absolutely. Oh boy. Well, anyway, so I had to address that. I'm
So
sorry.
the
Right?
phrase, I was going to say that the phrase, like many phrases, are absolutely multidimensional, and you're right over the target. So, but it's an inside job. You're right over the target. It's for your own space. You're over the target. It's for this metaphor of that section outside of you over the target. It's all that all at the same time. It's all multidimensional.
Yep.
And in this delicious moment, why now? Why this conversation? Why in this moment?
Right.
Hmm.
Same. So wow, I really want to thank Doziak actually for showing up and for allowing me to be very clear about where I stand on that particular subject. All in all, I'm very solidly in my center about what I have been doing here and how I've been experiencing it, and it's all for my personal growth too. Everything that, and it's really been so much fun too, to be honest with you, because I'm waking up to the truth of who I am, and it is so delicious. It's absolutely delicious. I'm happier than I've ever been in my life, and that's saying something, because I've been pretty happy in my life. I had a really great marriage for a long time until I realized that it wasn't, for either one of us, actually. A lot changed for me in the last couple years of my marriage, and I realized that I wasn't happy, and I hadn't been for some time. It had nothing to do with this channel, but it did have everything to do with me and my personal growth. And so I really do feel like that's why I'm not. It's why it's not that I want to be considering what presents to me. Like I said, in every now moment, whatever presents itself, I'm going to see it from a perspective of, okay, that I love what you said earlier today, Lisa, about examining what is and taking my choices from there and what feels highest joy for me in that moment, I'm going with. And that's what, and so I really don't think a lot about what it looks like out there right now, because that doesn't really, I don't believe in what I'm seeing.
No. And
or what's being, sorry, Lisa, go ahead.
no, that's okay. I just wanted to say that, I know there's a lot going on right now that we could look at and feel kind of the same way that I'm hearing Doziak express.
Mm-hmm.
That's real right now. But for me, I know that I can also have My own peace and comfort and joy is not dependent on any other. It just isn't. It doesn't matter what anyone else is saying or doing. What matters is where my focus and attention is, and what I am creating for my next moment of now to step into. Because make no mistake about it, I am creating the path before me as I move. And so, with that awareness, I don't have to worry about anything because I know that Sheila cannot create my experience. My husband, Albert, cannot create my experience. My daughter, Jasmine, does not have the power to create my experience. BZ Rieger does not have the power
Still
to
don't
create
know.
my experience.
Nope.
And neither does the president or the neighbors. So for me, it's okay to bear sacred witness to the neighbor's path, to my husband's path, to my besties' paths, without getting myself in any kind of emotional state behind it, because they do not create my reality, nor can they, unless I decide they do and choose to give them that power.
Right.
And that's always an option for me, and one I rarely choose to make anymore. Because that outcome generally also is out of my control, and I don't enjoy the ride because I've done it. I spent a lot of time standing in long lines buying that ticket and punching that, you know. I bought the t-shirt. I wrote the vlog about it, and I don't wish to continue anymore. So I'm stepping out of the line and I'm creating something totally and completely different. And it feels fabulous.
Yep. And I just feel like each singularity has to find that for themselves. I now get that in such a way.
Yep.
Well, especially if, whatever, whoever, not just solely isolated on the, whatever the chat thing is going on.
Oh, does he have?
I don't have chat. I don't know. I don't see any of that.
I know. I don't know if I pronounced his name correctly, so I apologize. These two don't have chat available to them. And so
I only see 3 rectangles on my computer.
gotcha.
That's it. I don't see anything else. I can feel all sorts of other things and see it that way. But what I wanted to say is, regardless, not just in this particular, but wherever it is, when we're focusing on something and we dive into a certain thing, we're not small. So when we give our attention to that, when we give our considerable, very considerable creative power to that, we're pulling more of it. We're hyper accelerating, especially right this moment. We're hyper accelerating that. So whatever that is, we're getting more of that. So if it's not happening fast enough, we're getting more of that. It's not happening, and it's faster and faster that it's not happening, right? Or it's exciting and it's really exciting, and you can see the different pieces. That's always been the case, but right now it's inescapable.
No, that's true. It
what's
is.
flowing in. So if you want to have something get done and crumble all the way down, or if you want something to come into your experience or whatever, then put your considerable brilliance behind that, the clarity of that, and move it forward. Because if you want, that Ferrari or that pot of gold, Seamus to show up with that pot of gold, or whatever it is, or that guy or that gal, or a combination of those, maybe it's a guy and a gal all in one, and however it is, right? And you're focusing on it not being there, or that someone is thwarting you, or whatever it is, since that is what you're giving voice to, you are allowing yourself intentionally, maybe not consciously, to be a resonant match to that. And so think of the universe as a giant, what's the thing in Star Trek? Replicator and a conveyor belt, right? And so it's plunking all these things down that are resonant vibrational frequency matches to that, which is, if you're not noticing and paying attention and thinking that you're small and you're at the behest of someone else and under their thumb, and this one screwed me and that one did that and this one blocked me, or whatever it is, right? You're getting more of it, which is really pissing you off because you don't want the stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then you go, well, hang on. And you can shift that. Then you notice all of a sudden, they may start out seemingly small to begin with, but now it's changing. And that's the way it's always been. And so right now you have absolute irrefutable proof of that. Okay, BZ, how can you say that? Because look around you. Everything is unwinding and unbinding at a lightning fast, light quotient speed, a moment in a day. Look at how we've gone in the last week with your supposed freedoms and everything else in the last week, right? We still have the same president, but in the last week, look how you've gone, how far into a fascist and completely controlled thing that we've gone, right? That fast. And the reason that it's happening that fast is because you are all using your considerable brilliance and wielding power as creative beings to bring it all down. This is how we get what we're saying, we're giving voice to, that we want.
Right. Well, one of the things that I want to share, and it is in relation to some of the comments that I've seen here. I spent a lot of my life in a victim mentality, as I was textbook victim.
Me too.
I was, I was married at the age of 16, even though I didn't, have to be, you know what I mean? Divorced by 19, second one before 20. No, but yeah, I think I was 20. Yeah, very quickly. It was within 6 months, I suppose. Frying pan, fire.
Oh,
Just to be clear. Right? I'm just saying, so I've been a victim. I've been a lot of it. And I held on to that as an identity for a long time. Right? But none of that, I see very clearly for me at this point in my life that none of that could have happened without me and my choices and my decisions as I went along, even because, hey, I'm still here and I'm alive. So apparently when I chose to not be in that situation anymore, look at that magic, would you? Right. So I guess what I'm saying here is that it's not until I started turning around and taking responsibility for my choices. Now, that doesn't mean that, because when things present, let's go back to Lisa's. I love that, Lisa. That was so brilliant. You have to look at what is, but there are ways, there are perspectives, So this is what this is. And you might think that it's only one kind of, it's solid or whatever, till you turn the perspective. You can't get a real good look at anything until you turn that perspective around at least once or twice. Inspect a thing. You inspect a car before you buy it. Inspect an idea before you take it in, right? I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying, for me, that was a perspective that I held, and it wasn't a very empowering perspective. Oh, I can't do that. You know, that kind of thing, that kind of frequency is not empowering. And I really do feel like, because I've seen, like I said, I've seen too much. I know too much. I've experimented a lot now. I know I create. I don't have a really good handle on it yet, but I'm gonna. I'm gonna. That's
People are ducking when she's got the one.
That's right. Hey, listen, yeah, ask anybody that actually knows me and they'll tell you, yeah, people have been ducking around me and my creatorhood, because I am a powerful being. I know that. I know that now. I get it. I do. I get it.
As Sheila says, I'm not connected. Okay, great, no problem.
Reel it in, girl. But at any rate, I wanted to say that it wasn't until I could do that. As long as I'm pointing the finger outside of me, I'm not seeing me. You know, I'm just trying. And honestly, I'll be honest with you. I've noticed this about a lot of my noticing has been how much projection really is a thing. Because
Let's look around on the world stage.
Well, I was gonna say, boy, ain't that being revealed right now, because it is. It's. I think we're all actually dark workers in some capacity. We can call them light workers. I'm all right with that if that's what everybody really wants. But the truth of the matter is that we're just lightening things up, wrapping this up, putting this game away, and at least that's what I'm doing. And I'm inviting folks who are really beginning to figure out who they are, to follow your highest joy for whatever presents. And if you're not in the highest joy, ask yourself some questions. Why are you not in your highest joy? Is something going on that's preventing you from being there? And just, I don't know, listen to yourself. That's the best advice that I got.
That is the best advice.
I mean, so far, that's been part of what I've been learning to do, is trust myself, because I've had so much evidence. It's the more our focus and attention, we will bring things about. I mean, it's been happening. These things these threads that are there, that tie all of these things together, are unmistakable for me. I can't unsee them.
There he is. It's Xander.
There's that puppy, that Tasmanian devil dude.
That sweet face.
Oh, yeah.
Well, at any rate, I guess I need to
Hey, Xander.
I think that's about it for that. Say what, sweetie?
Does anybody
I was
have
talking
something to share in the chat?
Well, that's why I was going to go over this real quick. I mean, BZ, I would love it to make sure that you go back and take a look, because I just would like for you to be aware of what's being said, because there's some accusations here that I happen to be untrue. And I guess, I don't know, it just feels like a lot of victim stuff. So I don't know that I'm even going to address it other than the way I did, because I'm just sharing what I know about for myself. When I make choices and put myself in situations, for me, I now also clearly see why I did all of that. why I set myself up to go through all of that. I also see all of that too. And I can see my handiwork in it. I can see what's unfolding from my life right now and how all of that served me in a way that is invaluable in these moments.
Well, yeah, because everybody is their own singularity of connected to the all, and they're all, they're all responsible for how they show up for
Well,
what they bring to themselves. It's, I mean, there are many of times throughout my life there, I I could have and probably did spend time thinking, why is this being done to me, or why am I here, or what did I do to deserve this, or blah 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 blah, and could have been construed as a valid point in that moment, as one form of thing was visited upon me. But it's nonetheless, it's when we look at the wider perspective of the truth of who we are, the truth, you're a brat, the truth of who we are, that we are in creating all of that. And it's not, and people say, well, that's a terrible thing to say, because I wouldn't, well, it may seem like a terrible thing to say only when you're in a perspective of being small. I mean, I could tell you some things that would be considered horror stories, and someone would say, well, that's terrible that you said that you create. Well, no, because when I get to a certain point, that is far more expansive than to think that I'm just small. And President-elect Joe Biden is going to already has me and a whole bunch of other millions of people on lists, and they're going to be offing them at an alarming rate. Complete with taking a cute puppy like that and ripping him from limb to limb just for the fun of it, and to see how much loosh they can get in front of people. So but each being is that's they are response able to how that unfolds.
Yep. Well, I saw as you were speaking there at first, what I was shown was the the aperture, and when you said that about the aperture, what I was shown was, well, that's what happens in media, right? Everybody knows that things are framed in a certain way
Yes.
to bring across a certain message.
Sure. So we have a great example right this moment, right? So Trump gave this speech that whipped up all these people, that incited them to do all these things, and the worst thing beyond 9/11, what happened at the Capitol and all that kind of stuff, right? And then and you whip it all up, and well, I heard him say that, or I watched the media say that, right? And then you go and you either watch the speech, there's a thought, or you could have watched it live, or you could watch a tape or whatever, or you watch a transcript from one of the theys who were saying all these things, and it gives you verbatim the words, which talks, if you do a count of peaceful and all this kind of stuff, right? And then you have the timeline of all these things going on, and because they read, and then you look at the geographic range of time, how from a linear perspective, unless you could teleport or use a transporter or different things, right?
Right.
Materialize and go here, how long would it actually take you to get from one geographic location to another one in the best of times, like it's midnight and there's nobody around, never mind hundreds of thousands of people in your way and
Right.
things shut down, right? And then you look at all these different things and you're thinking, oh, well, wait a minute, that. So again, it's where one wants to hold their attachment to what's going on vis-a-vis them, because they're the only one here. Each of us is the only one here.
Well, see, that's why I think, so, like I said, for me, I can see where if one's not open to considering the fact that what we really are, what and who we really are, then there's really nothing I don't even really know how
if
we
you're
can
attached to
conversate.
being in a certain space, whatever that is, magnificent, expansive, powerful, tiny, a victim, just a schmo, whatever, any combination, or maybe in one. And here's an interesting thing, and it often happens. So in one quarter, someone is really courageous and really stand out about something, and then over here they're not. And so if you know them over here, you would, describe this person as X, Y, and Z. But if you know, and think, because for whatever reason that, and different beings are different, but that being has that confidence, has that heart expansion there, has all of that. And so that's how they walk in the world in that area. And then maybe for whatever reason in another area, they haven't, because they had in the widest aperture orchestrated experiences to come up and have them work on something or grow in a certain area, right? So I'm saying, so if some people are looking at different things, it's no one else's right to take that away from that person. Does that make sense?
No,
So wherever each being is, either, and we kind of, I'll wrap up for me where we started with the different kind of camps. So if you're in a camp right now that this is exciting and you can feel a lot going on and you're jazzed and you're buzzed and you have no idea what's going on, but something good is right, then that's where you are. And that's what you're creating, and that's what you're playing in and flowing in. And don't let anybody take that away from you. And if you're in a place where, we got this disease, and you hear all these things, and I'm feeling uncomfortable, I want to get small or whatever it is, then that's where you are. That's yours. Own it. Right? And if, we're doomed, or they did this to me, or, Orange man bad, or a Biden guy fabulous, or any combination of their, then own it. But don't try to take someone else's position where they are away from them, because you wouldn't want them to do it to you.
Yeah, yeah, that's a very good point, actually. I am not, I think that's a kind of a big misconception too. I'm not trying to tell anybody at all what to believe or think or feel or any of that kind of thing. I feel like everyone.
That's what we're all here to do.
Yeah, that's what the whole gig is. See, that's the other thing. If we would actually take a look at what we have, and because it's kind of funny in a way that we are so good that we've programmed each other. Is line them right up. Here we go. Right, we've programmed each other to forget and don't trust yourself. For God's sake, don't trust yourself. Okay, I mean, just yeah.
And in case you find other people trusting themselves, or having a wider aperture, or being conscious about their choices, whatever the choice is, right?
Right.
It's their choice, so it's a conscious choice for them, right? Mm-hmm. Then the programming is and the distortions then put people in the place. This is like the set it and forget it mode. So that they doesn't have to do anything, because they got all the little minions who run around and kind of force people back. You can't, right?
Can't do that. Can't fight City Hall. You need to just sit down, because you can't fight City Hall. You're right. That's a real good example of what we've done to each other. But the truth of the matter is, that's all a perspective. Yes, it's a valid perspective. I would never take any. That's the one thing I got to be also very clear on, having had this opportunity that I've had with not just the two of you, but all of my conscious conversations that I've been so fortunate enough to have through this medium, which is another reason I'm so grateful for all of you, has brought more of the, for me, a very clear, wow, it just left. It was very clear. And then I'm telling you that this stuff comes in and it just leaves. It'll come back if it's meant to. And I do feel like it will. So
Well, I'm gonna have to take it.
I know you got puppy stuff.
Yeah,
Well, we've been doing this for a couple of hours. Yes, I think.
My puppy is telling me that he's gonna be floating out the door in about.
Yeah, we could use that metaphor. Yes, my puppy is floating.
Yeah, so I take it everybody needs a break. Okay. Well, yeah, that's right. Well, you know, if you ladies need to go, I can close this off by myself. So if you wish to just exit the room, that would be actually lovely, because I don't mind speaking with my peeps for a sec. If you don't mind.
Much love to everyone. And so
I love you both so much.
You're amazing creators. Own it.
yeah, love you all. Thanks for showing up.
Bye, babe. Mwah. So I want to thank all of you guys for coming and hanging out. And I want you also to, like I said, oh, wow, that's interesting. Okay. I just had a really huge energy, like lob right here in my ear. That was very interesting. It's like the, frequency rose so high, so very quickly that I lost my hearing there for just a moment. And then now actually my eardrum is doing something funny. That's very interesting. Okay. So anyway, I just wanted to take a few minutes and thank everyone. Okay. From, wow, not just the bottom of my heart, but from my whole heart and my whole being, actually, for all of you guys, you know, who come and hang out here and, I don't know, in a way, bear sacred witness to me and my growth process, because that's basically what this has been about for me. All of it. Like I said, I just turned 59 in October. And I've had the kind of life where, like, you know, for a long time, I was bedridden. I was on my way off the planet. And so the discovery of the truth of who we are made everything different. Feeling into and getting to know myself on every level and realize that I am a creator being. Oh boy. We all are. That's my feeling about it. You don't have to believe that if you don't want to. It's okay. I think you might, if you really played with it for yourself. And that's really what all of this is about for me. I'm not out to hurt anyone in any sort of way. I'm getting to know me. I never did that before. None of us really. We don't know who we are at all. We know that we are a compilation of all the experiences that we've had. And most of those experiences have included programming and conditioning that really, on the face of a lot of it, just doesn't hold true, at least not for me. I'm not saying it has to be true for you, because I don't think that's how it works. And since at this moment, we're still in supposedly, the land of the free. I get to think and feel however I choose. And I'm taking responsibility for all of me, my choices, my thoughts, my feelings. So I just wanted to thank you guys for bearing witness to that, because for the first time ever, I'm beginning to know who I am. And this is such a really cool feeling. And I would love it if you guys played with all of that for yourselves too, because I think that's where, at least that's the playground I want to continue to develop, is get to know all of me. Is a lot of, I think, what, especially, the programming and conditioning, where especially that victim programming that I had to, I'm not finished, by the way, getting that all the way out of me. Make no mistake. But anyway, thank you guys all for coming. And like I said, a really special thank you to you, Josek, because, and I hope I pronounced that correctly. I have a thing about names. I like to be able to pronounce them correctly. I appreciate your perspective. I appreciate that that is the way you feel. I don't see it the same way. And I certainly am not being taken advantage of by anyone for anything. So, love you guys. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. And if you have not already subscribed to Conscious Conversation Central, I'd love it if you would do so, but it doesn't really matter since this channel isn't monetized and it never will be. I know it's my understanding now, I don't know, but I guess that YouTube puts ads on everybody's channel now, whether you get any money from it or not, but that's okay. I'm not interested in monetizing this channel. It's not what it's about. So I mentioned earlier too, and I want to share this because there's still 16 of you here. Yeah, I do accept love offerings, but I also actually offer oracle / tarot / I do it a little differently. Intuitive is what I call them, readings with me for love offerings. But I actually say, and I mean it, ask anyone, folks have taken me up on it. If you'd like to experience a reading with me and you're just not in a position, that's okay. I do it because it's what I love. I collect them. I collect tarot decks. I love tarot. I love the oracle cards. I love the intuitive. It helps me. It's getting me in touch with me. And really all it is me telling you what I get, really. And that's, so that's why I say it's not something that I require dollars for. It's only what, anyone would feel it's either worth or would like to contribute. But I always say, because listen, I'm in charge of me. I'm in charge of my my time, my schedule, everything. And if I can't or don't have time, or I would say, and we wouldn't do it. So, and I would love to have conscious conversations with anyone who's interested. So if you are interested in having a conscious conversation with me, you can reach out at consciousconversationscentral@gmail.com and make sure to tell me, your time zone and some dates and times that would work for you where we could meet in Zoom. And you could tell me a little bit about what you want to talk about and see if it's something that you want to share or not. So I guess that's it. And now that I'm losing my voice, it must be time to go. Mwah. Have a good evening. Thanks for joining us. Till next time, be in joy.